Welcome one and all to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on YouTube. A new setup here in the studio. Really excited about it. Trying some different things here to try and make the show look and sound better. So figure, hey, it's as good a time as any to debut a new setup with a big-time show like All In from Wembley Stadium. You know what? Listen, let's get this out of the way. This was a good show. I really enjoyed this show. A lot of great stuff, capped off by an incredible main event. A lot of great matches on the show, but there were some problems. Let's get that out of the way. Let's start with 0 Hour here for a second. I don't usually like to delve into kickoff shows because I think they're largely insignificant, but there was some stuff here that jumped out to me. A lot of it dumb. For the most part of it, it's actually really dumb. For starters, let's start off with this. They had a 16-man tag match and a 10-man tag team match. If you do the math there and you crunch the numbers, that's 26 men jammed into 2 matches. And then you had another mixed tag match. So you had 30 people in 3 matches on 0 Hour. Why? It's not. This shouldn't be like some sort of charity case type opportunity. You should have to earn these spots. And that's my problem. And you know what? I think it's great that Tony Khan is a very nice guy and very giving, and I think that's why a lot of people over there like him. But it's almost to the detriment sometimes of how people view him. They view him as kind of like a pushover, and like you can do whatever you want with him. Or, hey, I'll throw you a bone. I'll put you in a 16-man tag on 0 Hour because, hey, you're going to get to be in Wembley Stadium. That's not how it should be. And this is why I always will advocate for Triple H having 5 to 6 match cards. And for you people who want to bitch and moan about ad breaks, who the fuck cares? They're making money. But hey, it should feel exclusive and should feel like a really earned opportunity to get on one of these shows. And when you get there, it should feel meaningful. Not like, oh, I'm being thrown in as guy, 15 and 16-man tag match. And when you're doing a 16-man tag back-to-back with a 10-man tag, that just feels stupid, and that means you're just throwing shit onto the show. And when it's announced the day of or the day before, that doesn't make it look great either. I thought it was a little bit ridiculous that Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander in their feud did not make All In on the main card, but I understand there was already 9 matches there. So again, it would go against my theory of, okay, you're just throwing shit on there. I thought it was a decent enough match. This was easily the best match of 0 Hour. That's not saying much. But Willow and Tomohiro Ishii beat Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander. So Willow's going to get to name the stipulation for their match at All Out. So, fine enough match. Then you have the 10-man tag that was kind of just thrown together with members of the Undisputed Kingdom. In the 60-man tag was weird because you had heels teaming with baby faces on both teams. It just was like, okay, that's just like, you might as well have just done a battle royal or something like that. But Sammy Guevara gets on this show. Why? I don't know. Whatever. So this was fine. But then we get to the portion where I first really got pissed off. And as you guys know from watching this show and watching this channel, I can get pissed off pretty easily. But when it comes to bullshit that happened near the end of this 0 Hour show, I was ready to lose my shit. And I mean, I had already bought the pay-per-view, but if I hadn't, I would have bordered on, maybe not buying the pay-per-view. So Saraya shows up. Cool. Hey, she was the women's champion. She's in her home country. She's a pioneer and a legend in this business. Granted, her credibility and her mystique has died off significantly since going to AEW, and you can kind of put her in the same category as Mercedes Moné. So she comes out with her whole family. She's in Wembley. Harley Cameron's there. They're cutting a promo. And then all of a sudden, Jamie Hayter's music hits. Awesome! Awesome! I'm slamming the table because you guys can tell I'm really pissed off. Awesome! Great! But 0 Hour for a former women's world champion who has been gone for 15 months and only lost the title because she was really significantly dinged up. She looked fantastic, by the way. Some people were making Becky Lynch jokes. By the way, spare yourself for those Becky Lynch rumors. She ain't going to AEW. But really, 0 Hour in a segment against Saraya, who is honest to God as irrelevant as she has ever been in her entire career. That's the best you have for Jamie Hayter's return? That is booking malpractice. You had 2 high-profile women's feuds that you could have brought Jamie Hayter back into for some sort of like big-time angle. And some people are arguing to me, well, oh, you know, you don't want to take away the moment from somebody in the match. Well, fuck! Britt Baker literally came back after Mercedes Moné became a double champion at Forbidden Door. Don't give me that bullshit. Jamie Hayter deserved way fucking better than to be thrown at the end of a kickoff show, a 0 Hour, before a 4-hour pay-per-view in her home country. What in the fuck was that? Like, that set a really bad tone for me, and I was like, okay, you guys have got a lot to work for to get onto the main show, because that was a bunch of horse shit. I'm sorry. That was just so bad. That was booking malpractice. So then we get to the main show. We start off with the ladder match. The London ladder match, 4-way for the trios titles. Patriarchy, Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne against the House of Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, and Malachi Black. Then you've got Bullet Club Gold, which is Juice Robinson, Austin Gunn, and Colton Gunn. And then you have the makeshift, I'll call them the makeshift BCC, the makeshift Blackpool Combat Club, with Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta. So this was a fun match. There were some table spots. Some of these tables that were on this show were just clunky, and some of them didn't break correctly. There were some nasty bumps. Like Nick Wayne hit like a nasty looking Canadian Destroyer on the outside. Some of the interactions that Juice Robinson had with Mutter Wayne were really cool. Juice Robinson, I'm surprised he had maybe the nastiest Yambag City. I'm surprised that his testicles are in one piece. That was a nasty looking bump off the ladder where he got hung up on. But in the end, it was the makeshift BCC, and good for Pac. Fucking good for Pac. I love this guy, and I think it's awesome that he got the moment on Wembley. Here's my problem. Like, this was a fun match, good way to start the show, hot crowd, getting a bunch of crazy-ass ladder spots to start the show. Here's my problem. This trios division is a fucking disaster. And there's a reason why WWE has never had 6-man titles. Because there's no way to, like, have this many 6-man teams in your company. And when you literally took the titles off of Bullet Club Gold because Jay White couldn't compete, that happened, a month and a half ago. You give them to the Patriarchy. And now they lose them to a team that literally was formed yesterday. Well, technically on Wednesday, because that's when they taped Collision and did this. But you know what? Good for Claudio. Good for Yuta. I've liked Yuta. He just hasn't been utilized properly since he came back. And most of all, good for Pac. I love this guy. He has been a trooper. He has gone through a lot of hardship and a lot of hard work to get to this point. This guy beat Kenny Omega. So for him to get this opportunity and get a big-time moment in front of his home fans, the crowd went crazy for him when he came out, when he grabbed the belts. This was awesome. Fun way to open the show. So then we get Toni Storm versus Mariah May. And I was stunned that this match was second on the card, but this was one of the best matches on the show, and dare I say, maybe one of the best women's matches of the entire year. Mariah May, for being in her mid-20s and being this effing good, not only as a wrestler, but as a character performer, is nothing short of remarkable. She slapped her own mother for heat. Like, holy shit. But yeah, there were some good spots, like Toni Storm hits a Storm Zero on the steps that bust open Mariah. And then the closing act of this match, like that's fitting what this is. It was like kind of like a film. Toni Storm has the shoe. Mind you, it would have been a DQ if she did it. But she couldn't bring herself to, use the shoe, watch out for the shoe, which has been her whole gimmick for so long. Mariah May takes advantage, hits her finish. Well, actually, she doesn't hit her finish. She hit Storm Zero on Toni Storm and beat her with her own move. And Mariah May is the women's world champion. Good for Mariah. I think it's a testament to good storytelling. If there's one thing that I've been critical of with AEW, it has been, their storytelling has been lackluster. But when it comes to this has been a story that had been building for 9 months. They did a fucking good job with this shit. And I give them a ton of credit. I give a ton of credit to Toni Storm for completely reinventing herself and using a goofy comedy gimmick to have one of the great women's championship reigns that I've ever seen in a North American promotion. I'm not exaggerating when I say it. She's held that championship since last November. It is nothing short of remarkable what she was able to do. She got a justified standing ovation after the match, and she puts over Mariah May. Mariah May is the women's world champion. A Star is Born. This was freaking awesome. One of my favorite matches of this show. One of my favorite AEW matches of the entire year. One of my favorite women's matches that I have seen in any promotion this entire year. So, really fantastic stuff. So then we get to the portion of the show where you could take a piss break. It was Chris Jericho versus Hook for the FTW Championship. This match was awful. Didn't even start before Big Bill and Brian Keith got involved. I will say this about Chris Jericho. The best part of his act is Spotlight, his entrance theme. And you know what? You can say what you want about Fozzy. You can say what you want about Chris Jericho. That song is a banger. It's not Judas, but it's a banger. So that was the most redeeming part. The fans, for whatever reason, were cheering Big Bill louder than anybody in this match, which is saying everything you need to know about this feud. Like, Big Bill is over and he's supposed to be a heel. Just a bunch of spots that really, like, for the most part of this match, none of this meant jack shit. I feel bad for Hook, because he may be talented, but let's face it, this guy has been basically the FTW champion, I think, going on 3 years on and off since 2020. We've got to get him away from this crap. He can't, and there was a really cool moment at the end of this match where Taz, and this was the easiest thing that you could book. I honestly wish he would have done it to Chris Jericho, but Taz puts the Taz mission on Brian Keith near the end of it. Meanwhile, Hook gets his Red Rum submission on Chris Jericho, and it's a tap out, and Hook wins back the FTW title. Hook and Taz have a nice moment at ringside. That was cool. But this FTW shtick has got to stop. If you want Hook to evolve, well, that being said, I don't know if Tony Khan and AEW has any plans for Hook. And there have been some rumors that Hook may go to WWE at some point. And we'll see if that's the case. But if he's going to even remotely try to grow in WWE, or excuse me, in AEW, then he's got to get beyond the FTW title. Like, this match, for everything that happened in it, I will only probably remember the last 30 to 45 seconds of it when Taz gets involved and Hook wins the championship, which was really cool. So, I could have done without that match on the show. Then we get the tag team title match. My God, what a clusterfuck this match was. For a company that prides itself on tag team wrestling, what a shitstorm the AEW men's tag team division has become. Because the Young Bucks, this was their first, official defense, because, we got a non-finish in their first actions. This is only their second title defense since they won the titles in April. There was a bunch of run-ins in this match. Rick Knox is, honest to God, one of the worst officials I've ever seen in my life. You were teasing a bunch of interference spots and, hiding low blows and stuff. It's a triple threat match. Triple threat matches have no DQ. And Rick Knox was botching these hiding spots and everything. Max Caster got in on a bunch of other people's moves with other tag team partners. This was just a freaking clusterfuck of a match. And so at the end of it, the Bucks hit the EVP trigger on Dax, and they get the win. After the match was probably one of the more interesting parts of this whole thing. The Grizzled Young Vets, Zach Gibson and James Drake. I love these guys. They're from Liverpool, so they're from England, so that's really cool. And so they tease getting involved with the Bucks as the tag team champions. They then attack FTR. So, listen, I think this division absolutely needed a jolt, because it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of credible teams. The Acclaimed has lost a ton of luster. FTR is still over. but I don't think FTR is nearly at the level that they were a couple years ago. I still think they're one of the best tag teams in the world. And the Young Bucks, nobody gives a shit about them. So I'm a fan of the Grizzled Young Vex being involved in this tag team division. But, man, largely forgettable tag team match. Then we get the Casino Gauntlet. This was fun until the end. So match starts with Orange Cassidy and Okada. The third entrant is Nigel McGuinness. You heard that right. AEW commentator Nigel McGuinness, who had effectively retired for over a decade, shows up looking in phenomenal shape. He actually, maybe Mariah May kissing him at ringside during the Mariah May-Tony Storm match might have actually given this guy a new lease on life. Nigel looked good in this match. For a guy who hasn't performed and wrestled in over a decade, close to 15 years, good for him. And it was a really awesome pop for him. Really cool for him. Kyle O'Reilly gets in fourth. Zack Sabre Jr. gets in fifth. Zack Sabre Jr. is fucking awesome. His transitions and the way he gets into submissions and pinfalls, as good of a technical wrestler as you're going to see. I hope he gets a bigger showcase on a bigger stage, because he's fucking awesome. And so it was good to see him in this match. Your sixth entrant is Roderick Strong, so he doesn't have to complain about not getting into one of these things like he did last time, which set up the whole my whole issue with him getting a world title match for no reason whatsoever. Mark Briscoe gets in, doing his redneck kung fu. God bless Mark Briscoe. Like, that guy is just a national treasure. I say the same thing about R-Truth, but this guy is just boatloads of entertainment. He wrestles his ass off. The crowd loves him, and so that was fun. Then we get Hangman Page in eighth, and it was a cool looking moment for him to get into this match. He gets a nice pop from the crowd. I thought Hangman was honestly going to win this match, and it's a little bit of a surprise that he didn't. Ninth entrant is Jeff Jarrett, who got a really good pop. One of the best things AEW has done in 2024 is naturally turn a mid to late 50s guy in Jeff Jarrett, who nobody cared about, and because of the Owen Hart push and everything, got him over, and it's been really nice to see the crowd really react to him. That's really cool. Slap Nut, good to see him getting that moment with him and Karen, and obviously Jeff Jarrett having the heat with Hangman, so there was naturally the storyline progression in that. Then we get number 10 in this match, and it's Ricochet. Hell yeah. Listen, I did make no secrets. It's like I have concerns about where Ricochet will be off this initial run, but he did everything that he was supposed to do, and he shows up, does a bunch of flips, does a bunch of crazy shit that he normally does, and really awesome. So it's really great to see him, and it shows. Obviously, you see with Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews that, hey, two people in two of the biggest North American wrestling promotions don't have to be feuding with each other. They can live together and work in two separate promotions. So Samantha Irvin can be happy and be one of the great ring announcers in the sport, and Ricochet can go do flips and have cool matches, especially. And I'm looking forward to the inevitable match with Will Ospreay. So that was cool. So then 11th entry in the match is Christian Cage, still selling what happened still selling what happened in the opener of the show. There was a good spot here at this portion where Kazuchika Okada, who basically buckshot lariat on Ricochet from Hangman. He goes for the cover, and Okada just comes in and just casually just breaks up the cover. They stare down at each other. Then Page gets him down, and it potentially sets up for another buckshot, but Karen Jarrett grabs the leg, and it sets up Jeff Jarrett hitting Hangman with the guitar. That gets a huge pop. Okada then hits Jeff Jarrett with the Rainmaker. Sabre's able to avoid the Rainmaker and rolls Okada into a pin. Gets broken up by Orange Cassidy. Zack Sabre then tries to get multiple near falls. Like I said, as good of a transition wrestler as I've ever seen. He gets caught with an orange punch. Nigel McGuinness gets his Tower of London move in, so it's crazy that you get to see that. Also impacted Briscoe on that. Nigel then gets O'Reilly with a lariat, and then Christian gets a spear on Nigel McGuinness. And then the 12th entrant is Luchasaurus, not Killswitch. He comes out introduced as Luchasaurus. And so Luchasaurus teases a chokeslam on Christian, but then instead chokeslams Kyle O'Reilly. He throws Christian on the cover, and it's a 3. And that's it. What? This was so much fun. And that wet fart of an ending happens. And I think it was just a swerve because everybody and their mother knew that the obvious decision was for Hangman to win this match. Now, what happened in the main event and his involvement in it, I think him becoming more deranged, you can make an argument for that as to why he didn't win here. Because, spoiler alert, Swerve Strickland's not the world champion, but we knew that wasn't going to happen. But Christian, really? Really? And we've been doing this thing with Luchasaurus for 2 years now. Why? Why? Like, why continue to just build this heat up to the point? And, you know, maybe Christian Cage is going to get a token world championship reign. If anybody deserves it, it's him. But this act is getting stale. I'm starting to get tired of it. They held the trios titles for nothing. I understand that it's part of his character that he wants to hold every championship. But he had a world championship match earlier this year. And to do it off of this when you have all of these cool surprises, all of these cool moves that happen, and for it to just end with Luchasaurus just hitting a chokeslam after faking that he was going to turn face on Christian and what everybody expected was going to happen, and just end the match there, just a huge, huge letdown. Really disappointing. Then we get to what I thought maybe was one of the matches of the show in MJF and Will Ospreay. Listen, these guys fucking killed it, but I'm going to go to my grave in saying that the way that they laid this thing out, even if it kind of in logic made sense to be like, hey, let's get some heat on it and plant some more things, I don't think you needed to do this match twice in the span of 6 to 7 weeks. That being said, in a condensed format as opposed to going a full hour, maybe this in totality was a much more easily digestible match. Granted, that hour-long match up until the finish was as quick of a 1 hour match as you're ever going to see. Like MJF was bringing out crazy shit. Obviously, Will Ospreay is insane. We get a Panama Sunrise on the apron. We almost get a count-out win. MJF goes for the Heat Seeker, says God bless America. Ospreay avoids the move, hits an Os Cutter on the apron. Ospreay goes for the Hidden Blade. MJF moves, and Ospreay takes out a cameraman. That was the cameraman took one of the best bumps of the show. And a multicolored underwear. Pull up your pants, buddy. But holy shit, that was a nasty looking spot. It sets up the referee being distracted. MJF gets the American title. Ospreay ducks the first shot, but MJF is able to hit him off the second one as Ospreay's going for a Hidden Blade. And there's a 2 count there. MJF hits the Brain Buster for a near fall. And MJF's stunned because that's Ospreay's, that is MJF's finishing maneuver. MJF argues with the ref. Ospreay hits MJF from behind. It causes MJF to go into the ref. We get a ref bump. Nothing like a ref bump in one of these big time high profile matches. MJF hit a bit Ospreay's head. And then after that, MJF gets a low blow. Looked at it, cameraman smiled, pulled an object out of his tights. Apparently his Dynamite Diamond ring was stolen. And that may lead into what contributed to the finish. A masked person shows up on the ring to stop MJF from using whatever he had. And it's revealed that it's Daniel Garcia. So you can end that rumor that Daniel Garcia was going to sign elsewhere. I never really bought into the fact that he was going to go to NXT. He always felt like a better fit in AEW. I'm glad that he's getting a high-profile chance to shine. So MJF takes a swing at Garcia, drops off the apron. MJF calls Garcia a piece of shit. You can hear that audibly on the mic. Said he would get him for this. Ospreay hits MJF with a standing Hidden Blade. He looks to the crowd, sets up for the Tiger Driver 91. hits it, and that's it. 1, 2, 3. This was executed to perfection. It was the only finish that they could do, and they did it so effing well. And after the match, Will Ospreay doesn't even want to look at the American Championship. Christopher Daniels gets in the ring with the old international title. Ospreay announced as the international champion. Listen, for all of the bumps that I didn't like about this feud, I really enjoyed this match, and this was a great payoff to an entertaining feud. Two of the best guys in this company, and this was one of the best matches that I saw on this show. So this was awesome. Then we get, in my opinion, the worst match on this show. There was a lot of good stuff on this show. Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker. This was a disaster. They tried. They really tried. They were in the death spot. Nobody gave a shit. There isn't a ton of heat behind this feud. I don't know what it is. These two wouldn't click together. It was just a mess. A mess of a feud. And can we, for the love of God, get Mercedes Moné some new music? With the piped-in CEO chants and her rapping, I'd take a Death Rebel theme song from WWE over this crap. Death Rebel is awful. I would take that. It's a horrendous theme. It is nails on a chalkboard. I know Mercedes isn't going to change it because she's got creative control and all this other crap. Listen, they really tried. They really tried. Britt was trying her ass off, but there was clunky spots throughout this match. Moné takes it late in this match is where I'll get to where it was kind of moderately good. Mercedes gets the TBS title belt, tries to hit Britt with it, but the referee turned around and stopped it. It almost looked like Mercedes was going to hit the ref, so that was interesting. Britt takes the New Japan Strong title, the other title from Camille, but then tosses it back to her and lays down, does the Eddie Guerrero spot. That was actually a neat little callback, because if you know anything about Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, Eddie Guerrero is their hero, so that was really cool. Referee ejects Camille. Baker waves at her. Baker hits a Panama Sunrise that was kind of clunky looking, follows it up with a stomp. That was a good near fall, where people finally started to buy into this match. Britt goes for the lock job, but Mercedes pushed off the ropes. Baker rolled over with her and tried to apply the hold, but Mercedes bites Britt's hand. Moné hooked Baker into a pinfall for a 2. Baker used a kneeling backslide to get a 2 count. Baker then held Mercedes in the same position as they got to their feet, so it was like a little bit of a rise up from the backslide, which is always a cool spot. And then Mercedes whipped Baker's face into the top rope and just hit her with the Moneymaker, which is a weak-ass looking finish, and that was the match. 17 minutes. This was not good. On a show that's supposed to be our biggest show of the year with two of the best or the most well-known and popular women's performers, this feud was a clunker. This match was a clunker. It ended just out of nowhere. It wasn't good. Like, I didn't like this. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier about Soraya Page. I haven't seen a woman evaporate their credibility as quickly as maybe Mercedes Moné and Soraya. Like, it really is astonishing what happens when you go to a promotion where somebody's not going to tell you no. And that's, like I said, it's good that Tony Khan's a nice guy, but okay, after you get past that, some of these ideas aren't good. And this was a slam dunk feud. They had a couple decent segments mixed within a bunch of awful shit that happened that was kind of hamstrung by Britt's suspension. But yeah, this was not a good match, and I'm not surprised. It didn't help that the crowd didn't care. And you know, yeah. Then I guess you could call it the co-main event, although I think it's weird that Darby Allin and Jack Perry were the second to last match on this show. Listen, it was a spot fest, a largely forgettable match. And towards the end of this thing, Darby gets thrown off the stage, off the entrance ramp, and he goes through a bunch of tables. And then the anticlimactic finish is Jack throws Darby inside a body bag, grabs him to ringside, opens up the coffin, and effectively, there was a little bit of resistance from Darby. By the way, Darby had thumbtacks glued to his face in this match. What the fuck? Darby just almost has like a death wish sometimes. So Darby kind of resists a little bit. Jack hits a running knee strike. He spits on Darby and then closes the lid of the coffin. This went 10 minutes. This was largely forgettable. The post-match angle was more interesting than almost anything that happened in this match, because Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, the Young Bucks, show up. They have gasoline. It looks like they're going to light the coffin with Darby Allin in it on fire when Seek and Destroy hits, and out comes Sting, to quote Tony Schiavone. And so Sting gets in some stuff. Jack Perry tries to use a chair. Sting no-sold it. He hits a double scorpion death drop on the Bucks. Gets Darby out of the coffin, and the fans celebrate and sing Seek and Destroy. And that's the match there. So, listen, like I said, the post-match angle I think was better than, the match itself. It was a spot fest, decent palate cleanser, but nothing spectacular. Coming off of like I said, the crowd was kind of just dead at this point, especially after the clunker that was Mercedes and Britt. And then we get the main event. Just an outstanding match between Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson gets the nice video package. He enters to the final countdown. Hell yeah, everybody in the stadium singing it. Bree is out there with Birdie and Buddy. That's awesome. Jim Ross is at commentary, so you know it's a big deal. Swerve Strickland gets a big time entrance as well. I think Bun B was a part of this entrance as well. Get a remix version of that with, I think, DJ Wu Kid, along with Garments. And, of course, Prince Nana doing his dance, which is just a treasure of all treasures. So, listen, man, like, early on in this match, Swerve was putting on an absolute fucking masterclass of how to be a heel. Even though he's technically, I guess, kind of a tweener, but he was bleeding more heel. I mean, he goes over to Bryan's family early on in the match. At one point in this match, a springboard cannonball dive. Bryan Danielson wrestled this match like it was his last match. You could totally see that. So then Danielson dropped a knee onto the bad arm of Swerve, hit him with a bunch of chops and kicks in the corner. Swerve comes back with a backbreaker and a suplex. Before reaching for his bad shoulder. Excalibur said he wasn't sure. This was interesting commentary that they had. He wasn't sure if they were picking up the shrieks of and just scared nature from Bryan's daughter. So Swerve ran into the corner and then went up top. Danielson cut him off, and they traded strikes. Danielson applied a triangle choke in the ropes. Swerve powered him up Bryan's legs and swung him into the referee, so we get a ref bump there. And then this is where the match got really interesting. So there's a mild ref bump. Prince Nana places the ring bell on the apron. Swerve dumps him with a Death Valley driver onto it. And that busts Bryan Danielson open. Man. And Bryan was bleeding profusely. This was a gnarly looking spot again. Bryan was wrestling this like it was his last fucking match. So Swerve then did the signature arm capture spot that Bryan usually does to his opponents, and does it in front of Bree and the kids. Ooh, that's some heat. Swerve brings Danielson back to the apron after all this, and grounds his bloody forehead. Swerve put Danielson on the top turnbuckle facing the crowd, climbed up behind him. Swerve gets a suplex in. We get a camera cut to Danielson's daughter. There was some really good production on this show, and the way that they produced this match with a lot of emphasis on Bryan's family, knowing how important this match was really cool. The announcer said she was crying, but her face was blocked by the barricade, so you couldn't really see. But they're trying to heighten the drama. In the ring, Danielson avoids Swerve going for the Swerve stomp from the ropes. Made a play for a submission hold. Danielson put Swerve down with a lariat. Swerve threw uppercuts until Danielson hooked him in a backslide for a 2. Danielson hit another clothesline. Looks to the crowd while down on all fours, gets up to his feet, drop kicks Swerve into the opposite corner twice, goes for the third one, but Swerve cuts him off with a flatliner. That gets a near fall. Bryan goes for cattle mutilation, but transitions into a tiger suplex. He has the K-tape on, so he's selling his neck pain before throwing a series of his kicks. Camera goes back to Danielson's kids cheering him on. Danielson gets Swerve on the ropes, gets a tiger suplex that looked nasty. I mean, it looked perfectly executed, but if you saw it live, if you didn't look at the replay, you were honest to God swear that somebody was going to break their neck. That was a nasty looking move. Swerve comes back with a vertebraker. Holy shit. It looked like Danielson got dropped on his neck and almost broke it. So the medical team gets called in. They examine Danielson before Swerve gets him out of there. And what sucked about that is they were showing a replay as this was going on, so that kind of diminished the moment a little bit. Swerve hits Danielson with the double stomp, the Swerve stomp, gets a near fall. Then Swerve gets a house call. Swerve motion for Danielson to get up, hits him with another house call. Swerve goes in the corner. He's going for a third house call. He starts the Who's House chant. The announcers are basically assuming that Bryan's done, and you would think the way that this was, he was done. Swerve then covers Danielson off of the third house call, near fall. Crowd erupts in a bunch of yes chants. This is starting to feel like WrestleMania 30. Swerve threw kicks at Danielson again. He keeps firing up. Danielson slapped Swerve across the face twice, then threw some kicks at him. So then Danielson gets another wicked suplex, pumped his fist in the mat. Danielson's kids are cheering their butts off. Danielson hits a Busaiku knee that backs Swerve into the corner, but Swerve no-sells it. Woo! Like the one thing that I will give him credit for, Swerve did not look like a chump in this match, in losing this match. He came off like a fucking badass. And that was a big takeaway from the obvious ending that needed to happen. Where was I at here? I'm going back to but yeah, he brushes it off. Swerve hits Danielson with a house call. He grabs Bryan again from behind, looks at his family before hitting the JML driver, which is now known as Big Pressure. Nice shout out to his music. And Bryan kicks out. And I think they said on commentary that's the first time anybody's ever kicked out of that. That's crazy. Then there's a commotion at ringside. It's a deranged Hangman Page. I was mad that he wasn't in the world, that he didn't win the world title shot. Now, this kind of checked out and saying, okay, they're making him more deranged because, hey, he's going to try and screw Swerve or try and get after him any way possible. The ring, there's a bunch of yes chants going on. Hangman's tossing aside security members. He tosses Nana to the ground. Swerve is distracted by all of this as Hangman's being dragged away. Danielson hits a Busaiku knee for a really close near fall. Crowd's going nuts. They're chanting AEW. This is awesome. Swerve and Bryan trade blows in the middle of the ring. Swerve hit a series of kicks. Goes for one of his rolling maneuvers, but Danielson catches him with another knee strike. Danielson gets on his knees with a bunch of yes chants with one arm. He gets Swerve from behind with another Busaiku knee. Danielson then applies the label lock in the middle of the ring. Swerve tries to get out of it and pry his hamstring. Danielson does the Pete Dunne, break Swerve's fingers, reapplies the hold, and we get a submission. It's Yeselmania all over again. We'll call it Y'all In, I guess, or Yes All In, or whatever. This was such a beautiful fucking moment. And Bryan Danielson, at long last, is the world champion. His career is not over. We never expected it to be open. But they did a really good job in convincing us all that maybe this was the end. They used his family effectively. Swerve looked like a badass, looked defiant in defeat. Even the Hangman Page involvement made a ton of sense. It didn't cost Swerve the match, but there was an element of you thinking that maybe it would. So, you know what? I'm all for this. Like, it was a clunky build to get here, but they made it feel like a big fucking deal. So Danielson gets the belt. Claudio and Wheeler, along with a new honorary BCC member, Pac out there to celebrate. They get Brie and the kids in the ring. Confetti falls down. Pyro shoots off, and Tony Schiavone says something that I've always believed. I think Bryan Danielson's one of the greatest to ever do it. And this, listen, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to say, compare it to WrestleMania 30. Nothing is ever going to top that moment in New Orleans at WrestleMania 30. Bryan Danielson, all due respect to Swerve Strickland, Bryan Danielson beat a current Hall of Famer in Triple H. He's already in as a member of DX. Batista and Randy Orton, who are both going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point too. He did that all in one fucking night, okay? And he wasn't supposed to even be in that spot. That was the moment where everybody kind of realized, like, it started at SummerSlam the year before. That's when we knew who Daniel Bryan and Bryan Danielson on a mainstream level, if you weren't paying attention to the independent scenes. That was, if that doesn't happen, this doesn't happen, okay? So while this was an extraordinary and heartwarming moment, especially with his family in the front row, nothing is ever going to top WrestleMania 30, ever. So get that out of your head. You're a mark if you think that. So, and that's the show. So real quick here, I do need to address something. So a couple things were significantly announced throughout the show. Forbidden Door is going to be around this time in London next year. I'm assuming that they're not going to run it as a stadium show, but who's to say? But it's going to be in London in August of next year. I said Forbidden Door doesn't make any sense. Why do they continue to do that? And they also announced, I think they announced a Grand Slam event in Brisbane, Australia. And also you have All In 2025 at Globe Life Field in July. So, hey, there are all these great announcements, all these cool returns. Swerve Strickland on the kickoff show was announced that he re-signed with AEW. Here's my question. Where's the television deal? It's great that you're making all these announcements, but it feels like you're compensating for something, Tony Khan. Where's the TV deal? Where is it? It's great that you're running multiple stadium shows next year in multiple different countries. But until you sign that TV deal, none of that means jack shit, okay? Because if you don't have a North American television contract, who's going to broadcast you? I imagine it's going to get done, but... And I'm not trying to... This was a great show for All In. A lot of good stuff on here. There was some clunky stuff in spots. Obviously, I was mad about the Jamie Hayter stuff. I thought Britt and Mercedes for what it should have been. But that was the build kind of hampered this anyway. And you have an amazing main event. And it's great that you're making all of these announcements on your show. And then you have a bunch of cool surprises in the Casino Gauntlet. But until that TV deal is done, none of this means anything. Okay? So get that TV deal done before you start barking and trying to chirp at people and talk from a rooftop and basically just say, hey, AEW's where the best wrestle, okay? Yeah, so I'm going to do a separate video that'll probably come out tomorrow in regards to something that I've seen in regards to Rock and Roman Reigns. There are some rumors out there that this match may be on hold again. I will tell you why in that video. I think if they do that and they delay it another year, you're stupid. I don't think WWE is that stupid. Then again, maybe I'm wrong, but it's a hot topic, so we'll talk about that. Like I said, great show for All In. I never doubt AEW on pay-per-view. They normally deliver. They did their job. And let's see how they follow up off of this and see how long Bryan Danielson is the world champion. We'll see where Will Ospreay goes next. Mariah May is the champion coming off of that banger. Maybe that feud with Toni Storm is not over yet. And you know what? Let's hope Jamie Hayter gets more shine than being on the kickoff show. I know I'm being a little bit obsessive, but I love and adore Jamie Hayter. She is my queen, okay? She is a lot of our queens. And she deserved a lot better than what she got. So, follow the show at OT Mike Wrestling. Follow, like, share, and subscribe here on the YouTube channel. And, yeah, follow me at Off the Mic 28. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Bye-bye.